everybody, Randy Younger here again with Producer's Corner. Today I'm going to show you my setup for the X32 as the I/O interface on my recording system. Recently I decided that I was going to go ahead and take my X32 out of our practice and live setup, and I was feeling really guilty about that because, you know, I paid decent money for it and it is such a great mixer. So I went online and I looked at a lot of people who had been actually integrating the X32 into their studio as their I/O interface and basically their mixing console. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to give that a try. And I was a little bit nervous about it because I didn't know if it was going to be quiet enough, and you know, if the Berhinger stuff and the Midas preamps were going to be good enough for what I wanted to do. And I was very pleasantly surprised. There are some great things that I can do with it that I couldn't do just going into a standalone I/O interface, especially when recording live drums. I'll just show you real quickly. See, I've got the X32 app up on the screen up here. One of the really great things about the drum setup is that I can leave my drums mic'd all the time. And I could just put a mute group on there so that they're not picking up So one of the great things is that I can leave my drums mic'd all the time, and I can put them in a mute group and just mute the whole thing so the mics are not just standing open. And the other thing, which I think is really great, is it gives me basically channel strip on every input channel. And so before I had to do all of the channel strip stuff inside the box, which is okay except for one thing. If I can put a compressor and a gate on it before it gets recorded, then that means I can get a much higher signal to noise ratio on the actual recording, which I normally do in an analog studio setup. And so I would always gate the snare and gate the toms a little bit and try to minimize, you know, some cross bleed and crosstalk. And you know, I can now do that using the X32 channel strips on each of the channels. So I think that right there is a very powerful capability to have, which would be one really great reason to have the X32 as your console. Even if you're an in-the-box recording studio, having that front end will really help you be able to condition your signals coming in and get the most signal-to-noise ratio out of it. So I think it's really great. Same thing for the mic. I can leave the mic always on, just put it on a mute group, and so it's not picking up ambient noise and coming through the speakers. And so that is another great feature. And I have the X32 app, which I can also then control the X32 from my mouse and keyboard, so I don't have to reach across to go, you know, touch all that stuff. Which I love, you know, the console feel and all that, which is really great. But if you see, my editing situation is such that I always have my keyboard here, because I'm always doing so many different MIDI things or keyboard things that I've got to have it there. It's the place it belongs, and I do all my editing right here. So the other thing that's really great is I have the X32 app on my iPad, which gives me control surface control of the X32 itself. So that is super powerful in and of itself. So when I take all of these features into account, I mean, it makes absolute sense. So I'm really glad that I fired my X32 from my live show, and I'm using now an XR12 X Air mixer, and I put it in a rack, and I did a video on that recently, and I'm really glad that I did that. But now I have a great use for the X32 that was just sitting there collecting dust. And now it is being used every day in the recording studio. That was kind of awkward. Anyway, that's what it's being used for every day now. What I'm going to do here is demonstrate the sound quality of using the X32 as my I/O interface. We were asked to do a cover song, which we normally don't do, but Lana is going to be singing with Tim Rushlow, the former lead singer of Little Texas, and for an upcoming show. And he asked if we wouldn't mind throwing in a couple of covers for our set. And so we picked a couple of big, you know, country girl hits like, we're doing the Shania Twain, That Don't Impress Me Much. And then we're also doing Angie Apiro's Cry that Faith Hill won the Grammy for. And of course, Lana sang Cry with Angie not that long ago. And so we're going to do that. But I'm going to just show you, I just threw this track together as a backing track. Just created that over the weekend. And so you can, this was entirely recorded in the X32. So let me just play a little bit of this for you, and you can tell me what you think of the sound. Oh, sorry. Here we go. And then I'll go to this little lead break. So I will tell you that a producer friend of mine in Nashville said that he thought that there was some collection of 10 kilohertz noise or hissing. I don't hear it. He's got pretty good ears, but I'm not hearing it. I'd love to know what your thoughts are. I think that the sound quality is quite good. Very happy with what I'm hearing with all of this. And so I'm going to keep using this for a while. And, I love the workflow. I love the utility and just leaving it always set up. And I think it is really great, to have the oops, I didn't mean to do that. To have the X Air or the X Edit app available to be able to control the console with my mouse. And then, of course, the iPad app as well to be able to control it. So I think it's a great tool. I think it's quiet. I think the preamps are quite good. Of course, I have other preamps, like I have a mic pre on the VMS, Slate VMS microphone for the virtual microphone system. I have their preamp, but it is going in from their preamp. It's going into channel 1 and the mic pre, channel 1 down here, on the mic pre there. So it's kind of being preamplified twice, but I'm not really hearing any noise from it at all. So I'm pretty happy with it. Please let me know what you think. Like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's keep the dialogue going. Okay, guys? Thank you.